Speaking of tag teams, I'm gonna have to see if I can find it again because I just watched. Um, I'm trying to remember. There was a video that I just watched not too long ago about when they did the Legion of Doom and the Road Warriors when they brought in Heidenreich. It was something I watched about that, and I don't remember what it was or anything like that, but it was good. And I know I watched it on YouTube. Maybe but they talked about it a little bit, and I think they even had like Animal interviewed on there about it and everything like that. And like there was a couple people that had said like it was horrible, that it was wrong, and everything like that. It just popped into my head because we're talking about tag teams. I mean, it's not really relevant to what we're talking about. It's just, you know, it just popped into my head that I had watched it and I wanted to bring it up to you at some point and forgot about it.
I think I've seen what it is that you're talking about. Because I've always been a big fan of LOD. So I think I did watch it, and he talked about actually there was a point where one of them owed the other money and stuff too, or something. And
Yep, yeah. Yeah, he borrowed like a little bit of money from Heiden. I think Animal said he borrowed a little bit of money from Heidenreich or something like that, and Heidenreich was like, getting like pissy about it after like a real short period of time or something.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen what it is that you're talking about.
But yeah, I mean, there's some of it that I can't remember. I must have watched it when I was like tired as shit or something. Maybe I seen it on Facebook and not on YouTube because I can't find it all of a sudden. But I mean, either way, I thought it was that whole thing where they brought Heidenreich in with Animal and everything. I thought it was done respectfully, at least. I don't want to. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't want to say it was like great or anything like that because it wasn't great. But I don't want to say it was like done well or anything because it's been so long since I've seen any of that footage. But at least at the time when it was going on, I remember feeling like it was done respectfully. Where they didn't just slap face paint and pads on Heidenreich and just be like, "Hey, you're road warriors now." They kind of like it made it. They made it look like he earned the pads and everything, and him and Animal kind of slowly became a tag team. You know what I mean? I mean, hell,
it's one of them scenarios that could have been much worse. I think
yeah.
They did the best with it than what they could.
And I mean, the thing of it is too is like with Animal, I'm sure he probably wanted to, maybe step back in the ring again or something. But the thing of it is, I mean, I think they tried to give him a singles run after that whole, Road Warriors thing with Heidenreich ran its course. I think they did have him as a singles wrestler for a very short time.
No, yeah, they did. It didn't last long.
And that's because, I mean, I feel like me and you, if Animal, which he's obviously probably long past his prime now, he doesn't need to be in a wrestling ring anymore. But, I mean, back then, if they would have just had him on a singles run, I feel like me and you would have liked it because we've always been fans of, LOD. But I feel like the average fan, the casual, fan, wouldn't have given a single fuck about him because he wasn't in a tag team.
The problem with that singles run, and I remember this, is because he ditched the LOD look.
Yeah.
And the whole thing that which made them the LOD, he went and reverted to the like original Road Warrior, like what they did when him and Hawk first started. No face paint, like leather chaps, just terrible looking. And so not only was it Animal on his own, it was Animal out of character, out of what you're accustomed to seeing. And at that point, it's like, what's happening? Why is this a thing right now?
But I mean, here's the thing.
Why should I care?
But I mean, here's the thing, though. On the flip side of that, had they sent Animal out there with his pads and his paint, that basically his signature move was the fucking Doomsday device, and he can't really deliver that himself. You know what I mean? So it's, I feel like if he went out there with the pads and the paint, and the whole look and everything, I don't know if that would have been doable by himself. No offense to Animal whatsoever, but there was always two of them, at least. You never saw one without the other. So, I don't know. I mean, fuck, did Animal even have a finish besides the Doomsday Device?
He would use like a power slam or something, but that was about the extent of that.
But I mean, that was also back in the 70s and 80s when like a DDT was fucking huge.
Yeah, when every single little thing meant a little more.
Yeah. Hell, maybe the Hulk Hogan era wasn't so bad.
Well, I mean, again, I think it all in well, not necessarily. I mean, you say the Hulk Hogan era, but when you say the Hulk Hogan era, that's just one guy. I mean, when you say era, that's a whole different thing. Hulk Hogan era. Well, when you say Hulk Hogan era, Hulk Hogan's just the one guy, but the era is a lot of people.
Fair point.
Like when you talk about, I guess, that era, and I'm going to refer to my WrestleMania 6 review, and if you guys haven't listened to that yet, please do. But I'll use one of the finishes from one of those matches. The classic, grab your opponent by the legs and slingshot them into the corner, right? You see that over and over again, time and time again. You can probably picture it right now, bro, where Triple H would jump up and bounce his face off the rope and flop back into the middle of the ring, right?
Or they'd hit the post, or
that's what I mean. He hits the post and flops back into the ring.
Yeah, or
you can picture what that looks like.
Or there'd be a ladder in the corner or something. Yeah.
Well, for this scenario, it's just the ring post because that's how this match of WrestleMania 6 was what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig gets slingshot into the corner, hits his head on the post. He gets pinned right after that. That was the finish. Okay. So in 1990, hitting your head on the top of a metal ring post mattered. Okay. It doesn't. Whole different thing.
Yeah.
Look, watch some of this older stuff. And that's what I'm talking about with some of these older reviews I had been doing. You have to watch it and take some of it with a grain of salt. And you have to remind yourself that things different, but there was a reason why they did those things, as compared to now where they can do all this other shit, but none of it matters because none of it means anything. That ring post thing was just one of those things.
I mean, that's an interesting, it's an interesting thing though that you bring up, and it reminds me of something we've talked about before, where, like I remember when we were growing up watching Stone Cold and The Rock and Shawn Michaels and DX and all that stuff, and into the Ruthless Aggression era with guys like John Cena and stuff like that starting to come up and everything. I remember all the time, Dad sitting there saying, "Oh man, this wrestling sucks now. It ain't nothing like it was when I was your age. Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat and all that." And we go back and watch a WrestleMania from that era, and we're like, "This sucks." There might be one decent match out of the whole card, But now, I feel like I'm him because I watch wrestling now, and I'm like, "This all sucks."
I know the feeling.
And what made me think of that was when you were like, yeah, when somebody hit their ring post, when somebody hit their head on the ring post, that meant something back then. Well, in Dad's time, when he was watching wrestling, when it was big and everything, when he was, a teenager, whatever, watching wrestling, a leg drop meant something. A DDT meant something. Right. An elbow drop meant something. And so
okay. Now this is a whole nother conversation, which is I'm actually kind of excited to talk about here, because again, looking at that older stuff and everything meaning something, there was a reason for that. It is because the whole, I guess, reason why they were doing all this was to put on the show the illusion that they were in a fight with one another. They didn't like each other, therefore they were trying to hurt each other. That was the whole point. Right? Unless you had a babyface scenario and it's just trying to figure out who is the better guy or something. You kind of play that off however you want, but they were fighting each other to hurt each other.
Yeah.
There's kind of the whole idea here, and prove who is the best. Where now it instead of you got dropped on your head and the guy beat you, it's I'm able to do 45 more flips than this guy, so I'm obviously better than him. What?
Yeah.
I'm a better acrobat than him, so I must be better. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
How does that explain I can win a fight against this guy because I can flip backwards?
It's either that or you're fucking 7 foot tall, 300 pounds, and fucking, and two.
And it can't be taught. I know.
Yeah.
So I had to throw that one in there. I knew you'd get that one.
How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing?
But yeah, I mean, unless you're built like Braun Strowman, or somebody like that, 7 foot tall, these big fucking huge guys, you don't get pushed anyways, and those guys can't do a fucking thing, other than just be a big goof, just fucking, I lift things up and put them down. They can't do shit.
But even with that though, back in the day, again, being that big would mean something. Somebody didn't just walk up to Andre the Giant and start throwing him around. It wasn't a thing. You walked up to Andre the Giant, he put his hands on you, and you're getting knocked the hell out, period. But it was only like one big guy that was able, and obviously we're talking Hogan here at WrestleMania 3, that was able to actually put up a fight against this guy.
Yeah.
Where now, especially, and no offense to The Big Show, no offense to Rey Mysterio should not put up a fight against The Big Show. I'm sorry. That's not a thing.
I mean, one of the last matches that I saw that was kind of like that was Kalisto and Ryback. I think it was for the United States Championship. They were doing like a tournament for the United States Championship or something like that. And it was one of the matches was Kalisto and Ryback. And again, Kalisto, tiny little lucha wrestler, Ryback, this big ass fucking meathead whose leg is the size of fucking, Kalisto's abdomen. It's like this shouldn't even be a thing. You know what I mean? These two guys shouldn't even be in the ring together. But that match was actually done well. Kalisto, it was done semi-convincing, to where it looked like Kalisto was just faster, more agile, and whereas Ryback was this big, slow fucking, goof. And so I mean,
obviously
it's possible.
A way to work out every scenario. It's just how it's done.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't remember the match between Rey Mysterio and the Big Show. I don't remember it one bit. It might have been done well. It might not have been. It's hard to say. And the whole thing of it is we all know by now that this is fucking scripted shit, and it's there to put on a show. So I mean, yeah, in any legitimate sporting event, like I guess we'll use the UFC for example, you're not gonna put a guy like the Big Show and Rey Mysterio in the octagon together. It's just not gonna happen. But for the sake of fairness, but for the sake of entertainment, yeah, you're gonna do that shit all day long. Just to see this little guy.
But try to make me believe it. That's the whole point of all of this.
And exactly, and that's like, again, going back and watching that No Mercy 2003 pay-per-view. I'm referencing that one quite a bit because it's like the only one I've watched recently.
I mean, it's recent and it's fresh in your mind, so I mean, it makes sense.
But I mean, also too, one of my most favorite pay-per-views is also from that same era, fucking the Royal Rumble 2004 when Chris Benoit won it. Chris Benoit wasn't, a small guy like Rey Mysterio, but he wasn't a big guy neither. He was a short, stocky little dude. No, not little dude, but he was a short, stocky guy. So he was still a fairly small dude compared to a guy like the Big Show. And when he won the Royal Rumble in 2004, it was, at least from the last time that I watched it, and I've watched at least the finish to that Royal Rumble probably within the last year. I've watched it recently. And the way that it was done, the show that Chris Benoit and the Big Show put on was convincing. Like it looked like it was a 100% believable possibility that Chris Benoit legitimately pulled the Big Show over the top rope. It was done well. And that's the thing. I feel like now things aren't done well. They're just done. It doesn't matter if they're done well or not. Because they don't play out they don't invest time into talent anymore. They'll go out there and be like, okay, all right, here you go, kid. For the next 3 weeks, we're giving you a push, And then if they, and then they either make it or they don't, which, I mean, I guess when you've got a fucking talent pool that size, I mean, sure, it's like, okay, here's your chance. You've got 3 weeks to impress me. Go out there and do it. After 3 weeks, you don't impress me, well, your push is gone. I mean, I don't know, but
my thing with all of that is the way, the shape that everything is in now is partially to do with, I guess, the writers or those in charge. And then the other part is the talent themselves. And what I mean by that is the talent, and since there is so much of it, are having to go out there and push the bar and do all these things. That's why you're seeing more flips and, more hard hitting, strikes and everything so chaotic. But that's the only way they're going to get noticed, is to do something hasn't been seen before. On the flip side of that, there's not somebody in charge going, don't doing this shit. There's no reason for it, and you're doing it. And there's, just because you can do 5 flips doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Well, and
so one guy does that, then the next guy has to do 6, and the next guy's got to do 7. Just because it hasn't been seen before. So they've pushed it so far to the point now to where, again, nothing matters anymore, because the next guys come along and had to push it a little further and a little further, and nobody's been there to stop them and go, you don't need to do this because this right here is enough.
Well, yes and no when it comes on that. I think what happened, I mean, some of that is true. I mean, I think it's partially correct. I think on some other things, the bar was raised so high to the point where, basically the WWE and the wrestling industry as a whole basically had to step in and say, don't do this ever again. To the point where there's certain things they're not allowed to do anymore. So it's not going to look as good as it used to because they just can't do it anymore for safety reasons. I mean,
well, yeah, but that's partially what I'm talking about. They pushed it so far to where it got dangerous, and it didn't need to be pushed that far to begin with.
Well, to me, it sounded like the point you were trying to make was they just keep pushing it farther and farther and farther and farther and farther, like with the flips and everything like that, and
well, in certain aspects, I believe that they do. If you watch a match nowadays, and you probably haven't seen it, but I'll use one that I've seen recently as an example. Aleister Black, which is somebody I am a fan of, against Murphy. These guys straight up kicked and kneed and punched each other in the face probably about 160 times. And I'm not thinking that's really an exaggeration.
Yeah. I've seen both of those two have matches before, and yeah, every other thing is a knee or a kick or something.
And something as simple as that is kind of what I'm talking about. Back in the day, one guy gets punched in the face and he's rocked. He's fucking spaghetti leg. Now, somebody gets kneed in the face, you can almost see a tooth out and he's on to his next spot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're pushing even the simplest things like that to the point where none of it's believable anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
But again, there's nobody stopping them going, why are you kicking him 7 times? There's no reason for that.
Because your star attraction is somebody who German suplexes somebody 15 times in one match.
Well, again, somebody needs to be like, this is unnecessary. Don't do this stupid shit.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I don't know. It's wrestling is in an interesting state right now because, I mean, yeah, we grew up in the Attitude Era. We grew up in the Ruthless Aggression Era. And it was one of those things that I think Chris Jericho had mentioned, in the latest, Dark Side of the Ring episode from Vice about, the Benoit family. That everybody back then, everybody took chair shots to the dome on practically a weekly basis. You know what I mean? Like, I remember watching Survivor Series 2003. It's one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. By the end of that pay-per-view, the entire canvas is like a shade of red. Because, like, every other match, somebody bladed. You know what I mean? And it was just pouring. You know, I mean, hell, Vince himself, you know, in the Buried Alive match on that pay-per-view, bladed after a punch, you know, and he just had a fountain coming out of his forehead. You know, they can't do that kind of stuff anymore, and that's what we grew up watching. That's where the bar was set for us. You know, the level of violence and physicality and everything like that. I mean, that was a show for us. And, you know, so now it's like, how do you carry a violent feud? How do you get two guys in the ring and try to convince me that they're in a fight with each other and try to convince me that they're trying to kill each other when they can't swing a chair at each other's head anymore? You know, stuff like that. It's so, I think the wrestlers have a harder time now, I think, than they ever have before trying to sell a legitimate, you know, fight or something like that they're actually supposed to be in a physical contest with each other because they're pissed at each other. It's kind of hard to do that when you can't actually do certain things. You know, whereas in the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, it's like, hey, I'm going to take this dude, I'm going to drop him off a ladder, you know, drop him through a couple tables and then hit him right in the dome with a chair 3-4 times. Or, you know, like Mick Foley and The Rock. Hey, I'm going to handcuff this dude, hit him in the dome, what was it, 11 times with a chair? Yeah, I mean, they just can't do that stuff anymore. So it's like, how are you supposed to sell a violent feud?
I guess kind of my whole point of all that is that was kind of my point. Like, that right there was pushed way too far. I didn't need to get to that point. Like, one chair shot would have been plenty.
Yeah, but now they've stepped in and said, hey, you can't do that anymore. You know, somebody did tell them to stop. So it's kind of a you know, there's certain things where they're not telling, there's certain things where it's like, hey, you guys don't need to do 15 German suplexes in one match, but at the same time they're telling them, hey, you can't do all this other shit either. You know, it's a bit of both.
The matches themselves, unfortunately, because they don't want to be in, well, Vince doesn't want to be in the wrestling business, wants to be in the sports entertainment business. The matches have been reduced so much to the point of meaningless anyways. You actually watch one of these Raws or SmackDowns, they'll get 30 seconds into the match and go to commercial break. That's how much they really care about the match itself.
Yeah.
You know, and it's every time. It never fails, you know. So, you know, they'll let some guy with a guitar, you know, sing a 4 or 5 minute song, and then, oh, well, here's the next match. They come out and ding, ding, ding. Hey, we're going to break. What?
Yeah.
You just let this guy of a ring with a guitar for 5 minutes uninterrupted. What's the deal?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it's
obviously the whole presentation had to change with the times and all that, but it's all gone too far to the point where nobody knows how to make it look somewhat presentable, to the point where it resembles anything that we grew up with.
I think the biggest problem is the matches themselves don't tell a story anymore, in my opinion. I mean,
they don't.
Again, going back to No Mercy 2003, you had that match with Vince, that I Quit match between Vince and Stephanie. Arguably one of the worst matches I've ever seen. It was fucking terrible, which is kind of funny because, you know, again, the WWE's had this problem for many, many years. They require you to not remember what happened over a month ago. You know, by this point in 2003, Stephanie McMahon had already been women's champion, okay? And then she goes into this match in No Mercy 2003 with Vince, and she's like this tiny little baby fawn that just can't do a damn thing. You know, she's like this helpless, you know, damsel that can't do nothing. But she was women's champion like 3 years ago. I mean, what the fuck? But anyway, my whole point is it was an awful match, and the whole storyline itself and the way they sold is actually kind of fucked up, because it's like, you know, child abuse to a certain degree. I mean, Stephanie's an adult, obviously, but I mean, it's like the whole way it was played off is like Vince is like a narcissistic child abuser is how they played off this angle. It was pretty shitty, pretty fucked up too. But anyway, they told a story in the ring either way. You know, they told a story in the ring, they told a convincing story in the ring, and the crowd in the arena went ape shit in certain spots because the story they told was that good or that convincing, whatever. You know what I mean? The like I said, the angle, in my opinion, was kind of screwed up, but they did their jobs. They told a story with their performance. And that's what wrestling was always supposed to be. Wrestling was supposed to be, that was how they told their stories, was in the ring. They didn't tell their stories by doing 2 hours worth of promos on a 3-hour show.
Right.
And I feel like telling a story in the ring somewhere got lost.
Absolutely did. For sure.
You know, and then the sad part is any of the people that you do have that are halfway decent with cutting promos, they don't utilize anyways. I mean, if it was me and I had Enzo in my playbook, I would have pushed that guy to the fucking moon and back. I mean, yeah, his in-ring work wasn't great, but I mean, Enzo and Cass could have been great. They would have been another, going back to the tag teams, I feel like Enzo and Cass would have been phenomenal tag team champions.
Yeah, they definitely didn't get they didn't capitalize on that when they had it.
I mean, I wasn't a fan of Big Cass to begin with. He was just another big guy to me. There wasn't anything about his look. There wasn't anything about his, his promo work. There wasn't anything about his in-ring work that was impressive to me.
But together they worked. And there's a lot of, good tag teams over the years that had those two dynamics. I can use, for instance, the Hart Foundation, the original Hart Foundation. Mind you, Jim the Anvil and Bret the Hitman. The Hitman was the smaller, more sympathetic guy, but he could work the technical style where Jim the Anvil get in there and he'd run over you like a truck.
Yeah.
Jim the Anvil in the very early days, he would be the talker of the group where Bret would kind of just stand off the side, not say a whole lot. Enzo and Cass, kind of same thing. Enzo could talk his ass off, but he could be that small guy that got his ass kicked throughout the entire match. And as soon as Big Cass got in there, he could clean house.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys and gals have either one thing or another, and putting them in a tag team will give you a complete package together.
Yeah, and that's what Enzo and Cass did. I mean, Enzo, in my opinion, seemed to do all right as on a singles run. When he was like cruiserweight champion and that, I feel like he did okay there. But that was just because of his promo work. His promo work in the ring and the way he could talk, kind of overshadowed and made up for what he lacked. Whereas Big Cass, I feel like as a singles competitor, Big Cass was just not going to go anywhere because he didn't really, all he had was his size, which is what Vince goes for. But, it's like when you put him with a guy like, a smaller guy like Enzo, he could kind of be like the muscle of the group. I mean, yeah, his in-ring work wasn't great, but I mean, he could still be more convincing than a little guy. So,
well, I mean, him and along with I think a lot of people over the years, obviously you don't need to, I mean, having the in-ring skill obviously is a benefit, but you go out through the entire history of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, if that's what we're calling it, the in-ring work is secondary anyway.
I mean, okay, let's
be Hogan, who had 3 moves. You look at Ultimate Warrior, who was hot for a while. His was that character, that persona, that personality. You look at Steve Austin, who would punch, kick, and stun you, but he had that personality. Some of the biggest names in history never had the greatest of in-ring work.
Yeah. I mean, John Cena was another one. I mean, John Cena was basically the guy.
5 moves of doom.
Yeah. I mean, he was basically the guy for almost 10 years. And yeah, I mean, I hated Cena. Absolutely hated that guy, after a while because his gimmick just got so fucking stale. He was their top guy for so long. But after watching a little bit of that, like, ruthless aggression, like thing that they're putting together, I can almost appreciate John Cena a little bit more now. Because he basically did carry the company when they had nobody else to fill that spot. But, I mean, anyway, yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin, I mean, when he first started wrestling, some of his early WWE work, he was a little bit more, of a technical style. And then after injury and everything like that, there were certain things he couldn't do anymore. So, I mean, yeah, he had to just switch up his style and go just straight up whoop ass. But I mean, he wasn't a great wrestler by any fucking stretch of the imagination whatsoever. He just had the character, the persona, the the mic skills, to get over.
That right there is one of the things I'm so damn sick of in this modern day wrestling. I think that might be one of the things I like about The Fiend. There are no characters anymore. Everybody's so cookie cutter and the same. There's no gimmicks. There's no anything.
And any of the gimmicks they do have for the most part are just terrible. You know what I mean? Like some of the gimmicks that they've had that they've come out with. I mean, like the whole King of the Ring thing's a fucking joke by this point anyway. They just need to kill that, burn it with fire. But like King Corbin. I mean, yeah, he's trying to do the whole King thing, and that's just been overdone badly too many times for anybody to give a shit.
Well, with King Corbin, though, I feel like he needed that. That constable thing was trash.
Oh, absolutely.
It was garbage. And this whole King thing, at least it gave him something to sink his teeth into and try.
Yeah, but before the constable thing,
he's doing all right with it. But that whole King thing, just that little bit of a personality, that little bit of a character, that's great. I want to see some more of that.
Well, before the constable thing, he had that like lone wolf thing kind of going on. I feel like they could have utilized that a little bit more, but
well, yeah, they ruined that, but
but I mean, some of the gimmicks that they come out with are just, I mean, like Adam Rose. That was a gimmick.
Yeah, that was trash.
Right. And so I feel like anytime they do have a gimmick, it's trash. There's not too many characters or personas that they have anymore that aren't garbage.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying, bring back Duke the Dumpster Drozy and shit, but, I'm not talking like bring back Doink the Clown and fuck, Hawaiian Crush. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like, that's one of the things, again, that's just part of the thing about The Fiend. It's a persona. It's a gimmick. It's a character. It's one of the things that, you have to have somebody believe in what they're doing. Aleister Black, right? He's got that really cool look. He's got that entrance. He's got that music. But then he comes out to the ring and he's wearing, these, the regular goofy ass fucking small ass tights like, most traditional wrestlers wear. I'm thinking you give him a look, an actual visual look to go with all of this other thing to complete this package. Just give me that.
Yeah.
Something, anything.
Well, and I think Finn Balor is a perfect example of that because how many people, prefer the Demon over Finn Balor? If he was just the Demon. I've been
waiting to see the Demon for a couple years, and I'm so pissed that I'm not getting him.
I mean, let's be honest. How many people actually give a fuck about Finn Balor? It's like everybody's always waiting for the Fiend, or not the Fiend, but for the Demon to come back. Which, I mean, the way they did it for a while. The Demon was a special attraction. I understood that, but now it seems like, but even when they did that, it was just like, oh, hey, it's going to be Finn Balor and this person in a match. You watch for 5 seconds. Finn Balor just walks out as himself. All right, I don't care anymore. If they would have just kept the Demon going as a full on character,
but right. That's what I mean. The persona, the damn, character, give me that. Because it was one of them things that the way they did it made no sense. He goes out there not as the Demon and he gets his ass whipped. He goes out there as the Demon and I think he's lost maybe once as the Demon. So why wouldn't he just stay that way?
Right.
Give me the personality. Give me the character. Give me something that I can give a shit about. Instead of the guy that walks out there in his, leather jacket and get his ass whipped every week.
Yeah.
Give me a reason to care.
Yeah. I mean, hell, could you imagine? Let's think about this for a minute. What year? Because I know you'll know this. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but the first Hell in a Cell match was Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker.
Bad Blood 97.
Bad Blood 97. Okay, let's put this into perspective. Bad Blood 97. You got Shawn Michaels versus Mark Calloway. Okay, not The Undertaker. He's Mean Mark Calloway.
Snorefest.
Huh?
Snorefest.
Well,
don't give a shit.
Well, not only that. Then at the end of this match, his brother Glenn Jacobs is going to come out. You know, he's going to come out. He's not going to have a mask on or nothing like that. He's just going to come out in, you know, wrestling tights, you know, and he's just going to come out, rip the door off its hinges. You know, get in there, you know, do this.
He's mad at his brother.
Yeah, he's mad at his brother. You know, he ain't got the look, ain't got the backstory, ain't got the character with the backstory and everything like that. I mean, who would have honestly given a fuck about Kane and The Undertaker for the next 10 fucking years if Glenn Jacobs came out and not Kane?
That's what I mean. Not everybody needs to have a gimmick, mind you.
Right.
Not everybody needs a character and a persona. Just give me some to mix it up, because everybody is too cookie cutter, too the same.
And maybe that's why so many
like
people.
Everybody else.
Maybe that's why so many people are behind this broken Matt Hardy thing.
I mean, again, maybe because it's something different and something, you know, that he can do something with.
Yeah.
You know, you bring up the Hell in a Cell match, though, and I think, you know, because of how long we've actually been going here, maybe one of the last things I want to talk about. You bring up the Hell in the Cell match, and this is a topic that I got into with a mutual friend of ours, but that video never did quite make it up onto the interwebs. The gimmick match, the Hell in the Cells, the Money in the Banks, the fucking Elimination Chambers, all of that stuff. What are your thoughts about the gimmick matches? Because as far as I'm concerned, they need to stop the gimmick pay-per-views, for one. The gimmick pay-per-views ruin everything. So the Hell in a Cell, right? When the Hell in a Cell originally came onto the scene, it was to settle this fucking blood feud between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. Some years later, it would settle this long-standing rivalry between like Triple H and Kevin Nash. You know, it was used for a reason. Now it's like, oh, well, Hell in a Cell season's around again. We got to have a Hell in a Cell match, guys. Book one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or, oh, well, it's TLC time again. Guys, book one. You know, there's Elimination Chambers right around the corner. Make a number one contender match. Yeah. You know, there's no rhyme or reason for these matches to actually happen or take place other than the fact that it's that pay-per-view time again.
Yeah, don't get me started on the tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs.
Hate it.
Yeah, don't get me started on the tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs match. Well, let's not go there.
No, I'm not going to go that far with it, but I'm just saying. So actually, I guess the question is not necessarily about the gimmick match, but these gimmick pay-per-views. And I tell you, I hate them. They need to go away. And then maybe the match stipulations, if they were used sparingly and at random, when actually maybe means something again, even with this, I guess, PG era that's not as violent, you know, that we're in today, it could still be worth more if it was used, you know, for the right reasons.
Well, see, back in the day, I mean, it's another. If they're gonna do the gimmick pay-per-views, then they need to go all out with it. They need to have Hell in a Cell. They need to have, you know, Elimination Chamber. They need to bring back Fatal 4-Way, because that was a thing once. They need to do a triple threat pay-per-view. They need to do a fucking I Quit pay-per-view, a steel cage pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Like, either do them all or do none of them. You know, in terms of regular pay-per-views. If you want to, because I mean, I'm sorry, but a pay-per-view called Triple Threat just sounds dumb as fuck, because it is. But I mean, yeah, back in the day when the first steel cage matches happened, it was to keep, you know, because a lot of times back in the day, you know, like a lot of characters had, you know, managers or valets that would always interfere in matches. So to settle a lot of these feuds that these guys were having back then, they do steel cage matches, so you couldn't have this outside interference, stuff like that. Because a lot of the early cage matches, you know, the whole goal wasn't to escape the cage. It was to keep them in the ring, keep other people out of the ring, stuff like that. And that's basically why I think the Hell in a Cell ended up coming about, because by this point, cage matches were made to, you know, the whole thing behind the cage matches was to escape the cage, get out the door, go over the sides, or, you know, and people would interfere. They'd still climb in the cage, stuff like that. So the Hell in a Cell was made to keep everybody out and everybody in. That was the purpose for them. And They were, yeah, like you had said with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, they were used for a reason. They were used to settle a score. They were used to settle serious shit. And now it's just, I mean, yeah, doing one every single year, it just takes away from the spectacle of what the Hell in a Cell is, what the Elimination Chamber is. The Elimination Chamber, though, I can almost see doing that one on a regular basis to a certain extent, because you've got to have 6 people in it. It's hard to write an angle and do a feud and a storyline for 6 people simultaneously. You know, so your Elimination Chamber could almost be like your yearly tournament, almost, so to speak. It'd kind of be like Royal Rumble in a way. It wouldn't be quite as prestigious, but it'd be like that ultimate test for the champion. You know what I mean? To survive the Elimination Chamber. You know, because I can't really think of a way, honestly, to actually bring out the Elimination Chamber for a special occasion. You know, like you would with a Hell in a Cell match, or, you know, a TLC match or something like that. I can't think of a reason why you would just settle a feud in an Elimination Chamber with 4 other people.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it can be done. It's not like it's impossible, and I think that's originally how they came to be anyway. You know, when the hell was his name? Eric Bischoff originally brought it in what was it, like 04 or whatever it was. But so I mean, it's not like it can't be done. I mean, it might be harder now, but you know, but still, the whole idea is that, you know, these things don't matter anymore, and it really is irritating to me.
You know, what I would almost utilize the Elimination Chamber for is, you know, I do something to where, you know, maybe have like a tournament or something like that, kind of like the King of the Ring almost, but you have, you know, basically the champion, and then you've got 5 other guys in the Elimination Chamber. You know, so you could almost do a tournament to like earn a spot in the Elimination Chamber to go for the belt. You know, something like that. Or, you know, potentially take like the previous 5 people who held the belt or something like that. The previous 5 champions, put them all in there. So they're all, you know, almost on an equal status, you know, equal accomplishment, or yeah, the word that I'm thinking of isn't coming to me, but you know what I mean. I mean, I could see a way where you could do the Elimination Chamber on a fairly, at least semi-regular basis. Maybe not, I think every year might be too much, but maybe every couple years or something like that. I don't know. I can't think of a way for the Elimination Chamber to be used under special circumstances because of the amount of people involved. Like you would.
Well, at that point, then just get rid of it. Don't use it. It's not necessary. You know?
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be a thing.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel about the Money in the Bank match. I mean, the first Money in the Bank match happened at what, WrestleMania 21?
Right.
So the Money in the Bank thing's been going on for 15 years now, and now you've also got the women's Money in the Bank match. So, you know, you've got a whole pay-per-view dedicated to these 2 matches, and then you've got 2 fucks walking around with these briefcases all the time, and it's just annoying as fuck. Like, I don't give a shit that you're walking around with a briefcase. And if you're gonna hold this Money in the Bank as this fucking prestigious ass thing, actually make them defend the damn briefcase. That might be more entertaining than the match itself.
Right. It was one of them things where now you have to have 2 of these ladder matches every year. What do these people do to make it different than all the other ones that people have seen? Seems like you're just creating so many problems with shit like this.
I mean, hell, with the way they've done the Royal Rumble over the last couple of years, why don't you just make the fucking Money in the Bank the prize for the Royal Rumble? I mean, because hell, there's been a couple times where, you know, like for instance, when Asuka won the Royal Rumble, she didn't even main event that WrestleMania. So what the fuck was the purpose of it?
Oh, that's interesting of itself, because the whole idea all the way up until the women had their own Rumble match is the fact that, oh, well, if you win the Rumble match, then you main event WrestleMania. Well, now you have 2 of them that win every year. Well, you can only have one main event. Well, they claim to have, secondary main events, and here's your main event you can, I'm sorry, the main event is your main event. You only have one. Okay, there's only one main event per show. That's just you can only have one last match.
You either go on last or you don't.
Exactly. So you can't have multiple main events. I don't care what they say. So you can only have one do it anyway. So actually, that's an interesting concept right there. They win that. They win the Money in the Bank, and then you don't know when they're going to, challenge for the title. It doesn't have to be at WrestleMania.
I mean, the problem with that do we even give a fuck about tradition in professional wrestling anymore anyways? You know what I mean?
Well, it seems like most people don't.
Because, I mean, that was the whole thing. It's been tradition since, I mean, how many Royal Rumbles have they done anyways? 30?
First Royal Rumble was done in, want to say it was 88.
So we've had
the winner of the Royal Rumble match didn't main event WrestleMania until 94 or 95.
Well, it's still been 25 years now that's been basically can't say the last couple of years, but I mean for a long time, for probably a good solid 20 years. That was just the way it went. You won Royal Rumble, you headlined in WrestleMania. I mean, that's just it. So I mean, they're kind of already breaking that tradition anyways because, who won the Rumble last year for the men?
This previous one, this last January?
Yeah.
Well, it was Drew McIntyre.
Right. Yeah, and I heard from the last thing that I read, he's not even going to headline WrestleMania. He's going to be, I mean, from what I read, the speculation is that he'll be facing off against Brock Lesnar, the main event of the first night. So, I mean, theoretically, if you were to put this back into a one-day show, it sounded like your main event plan was Goldberg and Roman Reigns, which Roman Reigns was just literally fucking given that spot. So to me, the Royal Rumble, winning the Royal Rumble for a match at WrestleMania means nothing anymore.
Yeah, that
they've already done broke that
hasn't
tradition.
Really mattered for several years now.
Yeah, so they've already done broke that tradition. So if it was me, okay, you have your men's Royal Rumble, your women's Royal Rumble. The prize is the Money in the Bank. And actually, I almost even hate that term, the whole Money in the Bank thing. Here's a title shot. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but that's a banned word. You know that? You can't say title shot anymore.
Opportunity. That's right.
Yeah, bullshit.
Well, either way, you win a fucking match with the champion, okay? And you get to pick when and where it happens. Because obviously you ain't going to headline WrestleMania if you win the Rumble. That's done been proven by now. So call it something else, because the Money in the Bank is just annoying as fuck. Because it's actually not money and it's not a bank. It's a contract and a briefcase.
Right there. The contract in the case.
Right. And that be your Royal Rumble prize. I mean.
Okay, actually, I was a smidge off. The first year they did that was 93.
Okay.
So, but I was correct on the other thing. The first Rumble was in 88, but.
All right.
So,
but I mean, for a good solid
that started.
So for a good solid 20, 25 years, you won the Royal Rumble, you headlined WrestleMania. Not anymore. So at this point, I'd take your contract in the case, make that your Royal Rumble prize, and go with it. Then there goes that gimmick match right out the calendar. Hell in a Cell, get rid of it. So I guess the whole long-winded point of this is the gimmick matches need to die. I can understand maybe having some sort of yearly tournament, because the King of the Ring is a yearly tournament. It's not necessarily a gimmick match, but it's a gimmick tournament, I guess. So I could see using like the because I mean you could almost argue that the Royal Rumble is a gimmick match and gimmick pay-per-view, but it has a purpose. Not like Hell in a Cell. There's no purpose. There's no end game to it. If you win this Hell in a Cell match, you don't get shit other than winning the Hell in a Cell match. And hell, now you don't even have fucking championship matches in the Elimination Chamber or shit like that anymore. You have number one contender matches in those fucking things.
Right. Again, they mean nothing.
So, I mean,
nothing.
So if you wanted to make them mean something, I mean, and the King of the Ring has been shit on so many times, it doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't have any prestige anymore. So, I mean, hell, do the King of the Ring in the Elimination Chamber. Screw it. I mean, it'd be better than what they've done over the last 5 years. I mean, hell, at this point, I'm damn near just throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. I mean,
well, that's no different than what they're obviously doing.
Pretty much, yeah.
I had to think about it for a second. Like, yeah, actually, they are doing that.
Well, they are to a certain extent because, well, for what, the fourth time now they wanted Roman Reigns to headline WrestleMania? And they wanted it to be Goldberg and Roman Reigns, so it's just like, hey, how can we get this match to happen? Okay, there we go. There's our plan. It's on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry. I have a very negative, biased opinion against Goldberg. Always have. I just don't understand how anybody can give a singular microscopic fuck about Goldberg. The guy has 2 moves, which I understand we already had this point that Hulk Hogan had 3 moves. John Cena had 5 moves. Stone Cold punched, kicked, stunned people. I mean, having a good moveset isn't necessarily gonna, make you, I guess, that much more over. But, I mean, Goldberg to me was just always boring. Because the thing with Goldberg was, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to build up this big ass match. We're going to, sell thousands and thousands of tickets, hundreds of thousands of tickets for this pay-per-view in the stadium. We're going to have millions of people buy into this pay-per-view to watch Goldberg go out there and spear somebody twice and jackhammer him once. Huh? At least with Stone Cold, I could watch him, catch fucking 60-yard Hail Marys with beer cans, chug those and give somebody a stunner, flip him the bird, and whoop his boss's ass, because that's what I want to do every day when I go to work. That was at least entertaining. I don't know. Goldberg and Roman Reigns, I'm sorry, they're I mean, I don't see what the hate is for Roman Reigns. I don't see why people hate him that much, but I mean, I don't think he's a main event, that level of main event guy to headline 4 WrestleManias. I think that's a little overdone.
All right. Well, then let's ask this then. Let's ask this question. If Roman Reigns ain't the guy, who is? Because I don't think they have any top guys. I just don't. So who do you think is, I guess, the so-called top guys of this modern era?
If it was me, turn Seth. Well, I think, is Seth Rollins a heel right now?
He currently is right now, yes.
Then
he is the Monday Night Messiah.
That's right.
At the moment.
That I haven't watched really enough, for him to really have any sort of an opinion on what he's doing right now. The last time I really paid close attention to what Seth Rollins was doing was when he was champion and had J&J Security. So that's kind of how out of the loop I am with Seth Rollins. But he's excellent in the ring. He's got wonderful, wonderful talent in the ring. He's had a couple incidents, like with Sting, which wasn't his fault. Sting doesn't hold any fault to Seth Rollins, but a lot of people like to blame Seth Rollins for that, which I don't think was his fault. I don't think Seth Rollins is a reckless guy to be in the ring with. I mean, if you want to talk about reckless people to be in the ring with, look no farther than Brock Lesnar. But anyway, moving on. I would think if it was me, I'd try to push Seth Rollins over as my top guy right now, because, at one point, he
can make the argument, though, that the last time they just did that, the fans just shit all over him, and that's why he's not the top guy right now.
Because they tried to push him as a babyface. I think.
He was.
And that's why. Seth Rollins has one of those voices that just make me want to whoop his ass. His voice is annoying as all fuck. I can't stand his voice. He's one of them people that when they go out and talk and they grab a microphone and start talking, he's one of them people that just gives me the impression that he is in love with the sound of his own voice, that he just loves to hear himself speak. He's got this really annoying, nasally ass voice, and I hate it. I hate
All
it.
right.
When he was a heel, when he was like, you know, Triple H's bitch, aligned with the authority, had J&J security, he was a phenomenal heel. Everybody hated that guy because he did his job. He's a wonderful heel, and he's got the ring work to back it up. And as annoying and nasally, and you know, as much as I hate his damn voice, he can still cut a damn good heel promo.
Okay. So Seth Rollins as, I guess we'll say, the top heel of Raw. You need a top baby face for Raw then. See, it's going to start getting a little harder now.
Well, this is kind of an uphill battle for me because I haven't really watched Monday Night Raw in a while. You know, so like the
last... but you say Roman Reigns ain't the guy. I'm just trying to make a point here.
I mean, I know, but anybody? Well, see, this is one of those things that was kind of referenced in that Ruthless Aggression series that they're doing on the WWE Network. Vince literally got everybody out to the ring and asked them in front of a live crowd, which they can't do right now, but literally asked his fucking locker room on TV in front of a fucking stadium full of people, who is going to be the next guy? Who's going to reach out there and grab it and take it? Who's going to be the next legend? Because at that time, they didn't have a top guy. And I feel like right now, because like back in that era of 2002, 2003, after Stone Cold and The Rock left and before John Cena became the guy, there was a fairly long period there of like 2 years, 3 years where they didn't have a guy. And I feel like right now they're in that same scenario. They don't have a guy. Roman Reigns ain't it. I guess I don't have an answer on who is it. You know, but the problem is there, I mean, I guess the guy is Brock Lesnar because they give that motherfucker everything he wants. They give him the belt every time he comes in, you know. So
okay, but he's the part-time guy. We need the guy.
They ain't got one, and that's the problem. And the reason they're not going to have a guy for a while is because they have too many part-time guys. Both of your most prestigious fucking belts in your entire organization are held by part-timers. Okay, that's problem number one. That is the biggest problem they have, and that is why they don't have the guy, in my opinion. Because you can't push somebody into the spot of being the guy when they don't have the top prize of your organization. I mean, look at the guy. Throughout history, every time the guy became the guy was because they were the top guy with the top prize. Hogan, he held the belt. You know, he was the guy and he had the belt. You know, Cena was the guy. He had the belt. The Rock, and I mean, the Attitude Era is kind of a whole nother ball game because you kind of had like two guys in a way. You had Stone Cold for a minute and then you had The Rock for a minute, but anyway, you know, it's kind of hard to elevate somebody into the status of the guy when the prize isn't there, when the prize isn't available. In my opinion. I mean, I guess...
I completely agree. That's definitely one of their problems.
I mean, you could almost look at AEW for comparison. I mean, from basically the time AEW began up until, what, a month ago, the guy for AEW for the first solid year of that promotion was Chris Jericho. And who was Chris Jericho? Le Champion, okay? There was a reason he was the guy, and there was a reason he had the belt because he was the guy. Those two things go hand in hand. You can't have the guy without the belt. You can't have the belt without the guy. I mean, you can, but it's not on TV. So I guess to answer your question, there isn't the guy. They don't have the guy. Roman Reigns ain't it. Brock Lesnar ain't it. I don't know who is it. Maybe he ain't there yet. Maybe they don't have one yet.
Could be. Well, I think at that point, this is, probably been about 2 hours or so.
2 hours, 7 minutes, and 40 seconds.
All right, guys. All right. Well, then we're gonna I think cut this off at this 2-hour mark. And the original plan was to talk about WrestleMania 36. We went way beyond that.
Well,
So,
chop her up a little bit. Yeah.
but this has been fun. I mean, again, we do this a lot, anyways. But we figured nobody's leaving the house, anyways. At least you shouldn't be. So listen to us talk wrestling. So, we may be able to do this again. I don't know. It kind of depends. I'm not sure yet. And I plan on reviewing WrestleMania 36 when it does come that time. And I believe the current plan is that my brother here will be accompanying me for those 2-day reviews of WrestleMania 36.
Yeah, that's currently the plan, unless I get arrested on the way out there, because, oh my God, martial law, can't leave the house.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic, and it's not wrestling rated. We're not going into it.
I don't know, man. The big boss man might fit in there somewhere.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But anyway, yes, the plan is both days. I plan on going and hanging out with you for WrestleMania.
And to try to keep those reviews, to a, I guess, acceptable length, because I have certain ideas of how long I like to keep these things, if possible. My current plan is to review day 1 the night of, and then day 2 the night of. That was originally my plan. That may change. That's what I'm thinking currently at the moment. But with that being said, if you've stuck around and listened to this whole thing, congratulations. You just earned a trophy.
And the trophy is, and hopefully in the link in there will be a link in the description below for like my YouTube page and stuff like that, where you can then go buy music that I've written and recorded. There's your trophy.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
But yeah, so for those of you that don't know, I am a musician more than anything else. My first passion was music growing up. Well, actually, my first passion was wrestling, and then that got overshadowed by music. But I am a solo musician, metal musician. I play guitar, a lot of stuff. And I'm releasing a 5-song EP due out April 10th. So you can go online on my shop and pre-order that. Hopefully, my brother here will put some links in the description below to where you can go follow me over there if you want to. If you happen to like wrestling, stuck around for this whole 2 hours and like metal music, there's your trophy.
There you go. And with that being said, for my brother, Daniel Rothman, again, thanks for being on the show. This is Dwayne Rothman. I am the furious wrestling fan. Stick around for the reviews, and maybe we'll get to do this again some other time. But with that, we will talk to you another time. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, bro.